It was just this Christmas that went by, and things were getting busy. I had to start buying presents for the family. I had finished shopping, but I still needed to grab a present for my little cousin. She's not very hard to shop for, since she's 4. She likes things like Peppa Pig and My Little Pony. She really liked, and I say like for a reason, Max and Ruby. So when I decided to go looking for a present, I figured something like a Max and Ruby DVD would have been perfect, since she liked to watch it on a daily basis. However, Christmas meant that most on the online DVDs were sold out of most places. I went to look on eBay as well, but I figured I could not trust the condition of the DVDs. So I was stuck in a rut for a while, until the package arrived. I was at home still scrolling for a stupid DVD until I heard the sound of something being pushed into my letterbox. I caught a hold of it before my dog did and looked at the package. It seemed to be wrapped fairly badly, with what looked like grease marks and stains on it. Naturally, like anyone, I decided to open the package inside was something that I could not explain. It was a Max and Ruby DVD. But I had not seen one like it online. It was like some little kid had drawn the front cover with a marker. The title was just Max and Ruby, with what looked like a poorly drawn illustration of Max and Ruby on the front. There were no names or anything, but on the back it had a list of the episodes, all with blunt titles. Episode number 1, episode number 2, episode number 3, and episode number 4. I gave the DVD a watch over, and to my surprise, the episodes were all perfectly quality. Seemed to have no flaws. As if it was a real DVD, just with a homemade cover. The only thing I thought was odd was the episode selection screen. The episodes had no names, but they were all called Max and Ruby 1, with the numbers being changed. And it went down the list. The actual selection screen was just a plain white screen with black text with the episode list, and nothing else. After giving it much thought, I decided to change the cover to something a little nicer by printing out a DVD cover that I had found on Google and tracked down the names of the episodes so they were labeled right. I left the episode list screen alone because I figured it was self-explanatory. Christmas went by and things were fine. I gave my little cousin her DVD and she was happy with all thoughts of Christmas. That was only because she had not watched it yet. On Boxing Day, the family had gone out for a meal and left me to babysit my cousin. I was not too bothered about being left home alone. I figured now was a good time to put the DVD on for her. I had put the DVD in and let it play while I was in the kitchen eating my dinner. Before I could hear, she watched episodes 1 to 3 so far. I was just about to finish my noodles when I heard my cousin screaming from the other room. Dropping everything, I ran into the living room. Saw my cousin curled up on the floor screaming. I looked up at the DVD and I felt my heart in my throat. What I caught a glimpse of was the most disturbing thing I had ever seen. It was what appeared to be the frame of Max and Ruby standing next to each other, in complete darkness. But what made it so horrible was their lack of faces. They had lost their noses and mouths, and their eyes were replaced with big hollow holes. The colors were disgusting blood red, and there was faint static in the background. The sound was replaced with sounded like the Max and Ruby theme playing backwards, with the faint sound of static in the mix of it all. It had to be the most disturbing thing I'd ever seen. It must have been on the screen for at least 20 seconds before the screen went black and the DVD turned off, which alone was weird because DVDs do not usually turn themselves off. I was able to calm my cousin down, telling her it was not real, and she had just had a nightmare as she'd fallen asleep in front of the DVD. However, I knew in my mind it was completely real. My parents had rung me up and told me they were going to be out all night, so I was going to be the best opportunity to look at this DVD more closely. I did not mention it to them. As soon as they hung up, I grabbed the DVD and stuck it into my laptop. As soon as I opened it, I noticed that episode 4 had now been replaced with Rip Mommy and Daddy, which sent a deep chill down my back. Since my cousin was now asleep, I plugged in my earbuds so he can sleep without having to hear anything. I plugged in my earbuds so she can sleep without hearing anything. Normally, any episode of Max and Ruby would have 3 short stories, but this episode had only 1. Started off quite light-hearted. Max and Ruby were playing tag in the garden, and the parents were on the porch watching them play. However, something was off. The sound was playing in reverse, and the parents' faces were that of sadness. A film grain became present, which grew worse and worse every second, and it panned to the mother and father. In a voice of deep sorrow, the father spoke. "Such a shame," he sighed. It then cut short to the sound of static, and a large scream followed. I saw two people choking while the mother and father mumbled to each other in the background, but it was impossible to understand them. The sounds were too realistic and made me almost physically sick. The screen cut to white for a split second, then the scene translated over to Max and Ruby, standing in front of what looked like a gravestone labeled, "Rest in peace, Mommy and Daddy." The two of them had no faces at this point. There was no sound apart from the faint static. The scene remained on the screen for about a minute and a half before it cut away into black. Then changed scene again, now showing Max and Ruby sitting in the room while Uncipherable's whispering became apparent and grew louder over time. Both of them were sobbing uncontrollably, while transparent clips of a murderer playing in reverse flashed on the screen. The father pulled a knife out of his neck, picked up bloody axe, and hacked away at the corpse of the mother before she came back to life, and he walked up the stairs. At this point, the whispering became louder and louder, but more of the whispering voices started to disappear. At the very second, it came down to one voice. It was a rather angry woman's voice who screamed, "Burn in hell." I was absolutely horrified. The scene had changed to Max sitting in his room. He was standing on a chair with a noose hanging from the ceiling. He had brought it around his neck. The scene faded to black and the static got louder, almost instantly. Then it cut to Ruby walking into her brother. She let out a gut-twisting scream. The camera was panned on her face, and the sound of the chair being kicked seemed the same choking from before it began to play. Picture Ruby's face stayed on the screen for a good 5 minutes. This time, her eyes had returned to the same gaping holes. And as before, there were no other facial features. The static slowly grew louder and louder and drowned out the sound of her cries. The scene cut to black with loud static. When the screen returned, Ruby was sitting, now on her own, in the garden by two gravestones. One was labeled "Rip Mommy and Daddy," and the other, "Rip Brother." At this point, I already had been sick and was sitting all shaking. The episode seemed to have come to an end at last. The Max and Ruby theme song played slowly in reverse. I was about to eject the DVD when the same image that came up like it did on the TV. This time, however, there was a text about two rabbits that said, "Death is our only release." Stayed on this for a few seconds before the DVD finally popped out of my laptop. I sat there trying to contemplate what had happened. In my shock and fear, I made the stupid decision to break the DVD as much as I could before leaving the house. I shoved the pieces down the drain. Thankfully, I kept a few screenshots and saved them on my laptop. The next couple of days went past without anything unusual happening. I had a few nightmares about the DVD, but luckily, that was all. My cousin had gone back home along with the rest of her family. It was late. It was a late night. My parents had gone out for dinner, leaving me to watch TV. I heard what sounded like someone posting something through the door. At this point, the DVD had left my mind since I had not told anyone about it. However, all came flooding back when I looked down at the letter in front of me. It was just messy folded up, and it read, "Death is our only release."